So welcome back to Get a Brew channel. Today I'm joined by our friend Matthew Curtis.
Hello.
So we're very privileged. Matthew writes pieces for us every month on the Get a Brew blog, and you can check that out in the links below. But the conversation we're having today is about your latest book. Many of you watching this will think, what a dream job. So he has had to research all the bars in the great beer city of Manchester. So you've toured around and wrote a guide.
Indeed, yeah. It's got 185 pubs, and it doesn't just cover the centre of Manchester. It's a guide to Greater Manchester, but it also has a little bit of information about how important its brewing history is over 200 years, and why it just has this really fantastic beer culture, from really traditional family brewed beer to modern craft beer culture. It's got everything.
Yeah. How do you approach writing a book in general? Never mind a specific beer guide book.
Writing a book is hard work. You have to do a lot of research. The pitch itself was about 5,000 words long, because you have to give the publisher all the information, not just on what you're going to write, but how it's going to sell and who's going to buy it. So that's a lot of work. And once you've got that over the line, then you've kind of got this deadline. And I had 18 months to write this book. And I started with a lot of planning and research. So looking at the structure of the book, how I'm going to break it down. I'd never done a guidebook before, so I kind of started mapping pubs. The problem was, the further I went out into Manchester and I started going to towns like Stockport and Rochdale and Wigan, I found that everywhere there were great pubs that need to be included. So what started out as a guide to the centre of Manchester became Greater Manchester, because you need to build that complete picture to really tell everyone what the beer culture here is like. What I really enjoyed was the 12 months of research, because I spent 12 months going around all these places, and I visited about 200 pubs, maybe a little bit more than that. Some of them I walked in and had a half, or sometimes I walked straight out again.
Yeah.
And I just knew they weren't right for the book. I went on gut. A lot of them are based on how good the beer is, but sometimes it's about the venue itself and whether it has historical importance. So that was about 12 months. And then the really hard part was the actual work, which was just locking myself in a room, sometimes working till 2, 3 in the morning, trying to hit the deadline. I had a lot of other stuff going on as well while I was writing it. So I got over the line eventually. I had a deadline extension. I should mention Alan Murphy, my editor, who is brilliant to work with. He's very hands-off, but he really helped me guide the book in the right direction. He's worked on a lot of guidebooks, so that was really good. And then finished it around the end of August, early September, and then 18th of October 2023 we had a bit of a party and we launched it, and it's done well since then.
One thing I like about the guide and about Manchester is the beer culture and the beer community. And if you're watching this and you're thinking, I'm interested in opening up a pub, a tap room, an experiential brew pub experience, you need to come and spend a few days here.
Yes, absolutely.
So this guide will take you on a nice route around it and take you to the best places, and you'll have a good experience a few days in Manchester.
There's even maps. I designed what I call beer trails. So rather than just like pub crawls, there's different trails around different parts of the city. So you can do a traditional pub crawl, you can head to Stockport and work your way into town, go to Salford. So you can either use it as a guide and use it to plan your own adventure, or I've got a few pre-made adventures for you. And one of the pubs you should absolutely end up is this one. We're in the Marble Arch, drinking Manchester Bitter, an iconic modern beer of Manchester, and this is actually a brilliant example of how Manchester has the best of old and new, because this is in the middle of that. It has both elements.
Yeah. One of the nice things about here is there's a nice blend between the old family breweries and the contemporary modern breweries. I would not want to be opening a brewery in Manchester based on the quality of the beer that I've tasted here in the last couple of days. It's an exceptional high level.
I think something that's happened in Manchester is it's always been a beer city. It has over 200 years of beer history, stretching back to breweries like Wilson's and Boddington's, which was once an iconic brand, once the best-selling beer in the UK. It was the first brewery in the UK to install stainless steel tanks after World War II. Their original tanks got bombed. So you see those everywhere now, but the first ones were in Manchester. It's a working class city built on the cotton trade, coal mining, and so it's always had a big population of thirsty people. But in the modern era, it's had, in 1988, the West Coast Brewing Company, probably the first UK brewery to use Cascade hops.
Yeah.
The first one, the earliest one I can find on record in the modern era. Then you had breweries like Marble come along in 97, and Pictish in Rochdale, and Phoenix Brewery in Oldham. And then in the early 2010 onwards, you've got Blackjack, Squawk, who've sadly decided to call it a day, but Manchester's always changing. And then you had the modern craft era, Cloudwater, Track, and then really lately with Sure Shot, Balance. The city just doesn't stop changing and evolving, but I think because there's a high standard of beer, and there always has been a high standard of beer, it pushes the other breweries to meet that standard. So you're right, if you came along and opened a brewery and your core offering wasn't as good as
it needs to be like
a Sonoma, then people in Manchester love beer, but they're very picky.
Yeah. If you're watching this, where's the best place to get it?
The best place to buy this book is on the Camera website. So that's the Camera bookshop. It's in Waterstones. And if you're in Manchester, head to Stockport, go to the Magnet pub and enjoy a few pints, then go to Rare Mags, which is an independent book and magazine shop, and they've got plenty of stock. So it's good to support independents, so I like to always recommend them.
Yeah. Any more guidebooks planned for the big city started?
No, I think why I like doing the Manchester Guide is because I live here and I live and breathe this city, and I think I've encouraged Camera to do more guides, and it should be by someone who's based in that city. Sheffield, Leeds, Liverpool, Newcastle, Belfast. They could all do with guides, but it should be from someone who knows the city inside out. This year, I'm working for people like you, and I'm working as hard as I can on Pellicle, the magazine I run. That's my big project for the next 12 or so months, just really keep that growing and going.
Yeah. If you're watching this and you've never heard of Pellicle, we'll pop a little link on that as well. Consider giving them some support on Patreon. It is really important for independent producers to get that support, and I love what you're doing. I love the guide, so make sure you guys pick one up, and thanks for today.
Oh, thank you very much, Johnny.